Pop Culture Pastor.
Welcome back. Candy Funhouse, an online Canada-based candy store, is hiring, Cody.
Okay.
Taste testers. The world's first chief candy officer at a salary of $100,000 a year.
Sign me up.
Where do we go apply? Job duties for the first chief candy officer at Candy Funhouse include taste testing more than 3,500 products a month, giving the CCO, chief candy officer, stamp of approval, leading the Funhouse, candy strategy, and running candy board meetings. Like, this is a job to literally be Willy Wonka.
Or it's the real life version of Candyland.
Now, if you got this job, Cody, would you be just yourself and just a more fun-loving dentist-going Cody?
Oh,
or
you'd have to go to the dentist all the time.
would you go Johnny Depp, Willy Wonka? Would you get all weird and eccentric?
That much candy would not be good for your physical or mental well-being.
Well, my oldest daughter would beg to differ.
I'm just saying there's a sweet spot for how much is just enough.
Here's the best part. You only have to be 5 years old or older and living in North America to apply.
Sign me up.
It makes me feel like, is this just like a contest? Are they just trying to make news?
Well, they succeeded.
I mean, yes, they're making you think it's a real job, and they're going to give you $100,000 a year, apparently. But then the thing about having to be 5 years or older, I don't know what Canada's work laws are like, but you can't be doing a whole lot. It says their work ad says this: do you love all things candy and chocolate? Are you passionate about confectionery treats and exploring unreleased and existing products? Yes, I'm really close on this one.
Well, guys, we're taking the show on the road to Canada.
If so, this is the perfect position for you. The candidate will be put through extensive palate training and much more. How's your palate?
My palate's very refined. I can pick out subtleties within most things.
Oh,
I'm going to be honest.
really?
Mm-hmm.
Like what? Like, tell me about a time that you were eating something and you were able to pick up something subtle in the food and everyone thought you were crazy.
Oh, let's see. It was something my mom made. Like, she had blended up onions within it.
She tried to trick you.
And, like, there was a lot of flavor within it. And I'm like, there's onion in this. And my mom's like, no, there's not. She tried lying to me. Then by the end of the meal, she's like, okay, there was. And my dad's like, I couldn't taste it. And my sister was the same way. I'm like, it's because you all don't have a refined palate.
You know, Cody, onion is not exactly subtle.
Well, it wasn't this. It wasn't like one of those like, oh my goodness, this is super oniony.
Your mom was probably one of the people who shaved up carrot and tried to put it in the Jell-O, wasn't she?
Ew, why would you put carrots in Jell-O?
Because moms that tried to sneak in the healthy stuff would do stuff like that. Your mom never did that for you?
Not for Jell-O.
That's why you turned out the way you did.
Grandparents would like put the carrot slivers in, and I'm like, oh, not eating that.
If you don't know, Cody has a very simple palate.
No, like,
He does not want it unless it's like, what are your main food groups? What are we talking about? Cheeseburgers? Chicken tenders?
like I'm closer to a carnivore than a herbivore.
Okay.
So,
All right. While we're talking about palates, I think COVID gave me a superhero palate. I'll explain. So I lost my taste and smell when I got COVID for a while. And then as it started coming back, the first thing I noticed was my smell was all out of whack. when I first started coming back. Things smelled different, and things still smell different. I didn't get super smell. That's not one of my hero powers COVID gave me. I don't know if like I also slipped and fell into a vat of radioactive waste or something. I don't know. But something happened to my taste, because when my taste came back, I can taste things the way they were, but now I taste more, if that makes sense. My taste has become more sensitive than it was before I had COVID. For instance, when I go like eat at a fast food place, I can't get lettuce anymore because the shredded lettuce that fast food places put on there, there's like some sort of chemical on those, like a preservative to keep them lasting longer. I can literally taste that. It's gross. I can't eat any lettuce from like fast food restaurants. Salad lettuce is usually okay. It's like bigger, but like the shredded lettuce that's prepackaged, I can't do it because I can taste the chemical. Is that weird?
That is a little peculiar. I will also say there's some restaurants that have like that now cook seafood, and like if it's close to the seafood, I can taste that.
Oh yeah. Well, everything at Long John Silver's tastes like fish. I'll take the chicken, but it tastes like fish.
It's a little fishy.
It's got a little fish. We went to Red Lobster.
Taco John's, even their potato lays.
Wait, what? What do they have that's seafood?
They did have a huge seafood selection.
Oh, you like shrimp, you mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So do they fry the shrimp in the fryer?
I would think they have a fryer right next to the potato lay fryer.
And so your insinuation is that you can taste the seafood on the potatoes, the potato lays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you don't do seafood.
I'll eat shrimp. I can eat shrimp.
You say it like that.
It's not something I crave ever.
Man, I just don't. I feel like you haven't had shrimp done right then.
Oh, I have.
Like good grilled shrimp.
Mm-hmm. I've had grilled shrimp. Man. I've had fried shrimp, boiled shrimp. Like, I'm almost Bubba from Forrest Gump. Shrimp scampi.
Have you ever been to like New Orleans?
Yeah.
Somewhere in the Gulf, and you've had shrimp down there, and you didn't like it?
Yeah. Did not. No.
There's something wrong with it.
Like, it's not, I hate it. It's just nothing that I'm like, oh, wow, this is amazing.
What's the point of having your superhero palate if you don't want good food?
It's a blessing and a curse, Dave.
Okay, Cody, how seriously did y'all take your games in your family growing up? Like the family sits down around the table for a card game or board game. How serious did that get in the most serious of times?
So I can remember, this isn't necessarily with my family, but with my friends, that there was a game of Monopoly where the card table got flipped.
Oh, yeah.
And people stormed out. And then friends weren't allowed at the house at the same time.
Yeah, so we have similar stories, of course. It was with family. Our family could, especially, why is it always Monopoly? Monopoly's particularly a cutthroat kind of game.
It is.
And especially you could get upset because you always had like that little cousin or little sister who would trade when they shouldn't trade.
Oh, yeah.
Like, here's the general rule of Monopoly, just since we brought it up. You don't trade someone who you don't give someone a Monopoly if you're not getting one in return.
That is what we like to call sabotage.
Yeah. And so other players around the table might get upset when they see that happen. And it was usually at like a little sibling or a little cousin because they didn't know what they were doing, Cody.
It is weird that like now they have Monopoly on like Xbox and PlayStation and people play it on that. And I'm like, why don't you just play the board game?
It doesn't feel the same, does it?
No, I got to roll those dice. Maybe I have a lucky hand.
Yeah. And like you don't get the joy of seeing how mad someone gets when they land on your property.
Yeah.
That might be a little sadistic, but
Unless you are in the same room and then.
well, it happened over the weekend, apparently.
Oh, no.
One family's game night turned violent and ended in gunplay. And yes, it was a game of Monopoly. It was in our neck of the woods, Tulsa, Oklahoma, only a couple hours from here.
Evidently, this game just brings out the worst in people.
Police say the family was playing at home on Tulsa's east side around 6:30 p.m. on November 26th. They had also been drinking. I think that detail is probably important. A man got into an argument with his stepfather, which escalated and turned physical. They flipped the Monopoly board, knocked over furniture before continuing the fight outside, as a family member requested. He then, during the struggle, brandished a gun, and his stepfather and stepsister both ran away as he chased them gun in hand and fired at them, although the police say he fired a single shot at the ground, as it turns out.
Well, I'm glad that he didn't fire directly at them, but no need to bring out guns.
I need to know what prompted this. This had to have been a bad trade.
Either a bad trade or someone was stealing money and or properties when bathroom breaks were happening.
The banker was stealing money. Say it ain't so. My sister used to do this thing. My stepsister used to do this thing, which annoyed everybody because we didn't see like that there was any real advantage from it, but she would hide her money. So you couldn't tell how much money she had. And then like she would land on something, you'd think she'd be out because you'd forget it. She'd hide it for a long time. And then she'd pull 500s out of her sleeve.
Yeah. Love it.
And for some reason, Monopoly is that game that just, it gets you. So there's so much in this story, Cody, that I can identify with, right? First of all, a Monopoly game ending in a fight.
That happens about 70% of the time.
What is the percentage of Monopoly games in the United States of America that actually end? Like that you play through the game? Because I don't remember many of our games actually ending. I remember a lot of them ending when people got PO'd and got up and left.
Oh, yeah. Monopoly takes hours.
I mean, we were kids. We had hours to spend.
But, I mean, literally, it takes hours. I don't know how many games ever actually end. Maybe 1% of them.
There was a saying in our house that the Monopoly game's not over until the board gets thrown off the wall. And that was literally, I feel like that's how a lot of our Monopoly games ended. And I wasn't the one always doing it. But I did get upset when people would make dumb trades.
Oh, yeah.
Like, don't make a trade that gives someone a Monopoly when you don't get one in return. That's ridiculous.
I also remember like family members bailing out other family members with very little in exchange. And I'm like, no, let them be in financial ruin.
Yeah. This is not show friends. It's show business.
Yeah.
Like you don't bail someone out. They lost. Like that's not right. Little sister doesn't get to keep playing just because she didn't know what she was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I also highly identify with the step family economics of this particular situation. So whatever happened, it was a stepson, stepfather quarrel.
Yeah.
And I love that the stepsister's involved because it kind of makes me think that the trade happened between stepdad and stepsister, right?
Ooh.
And stepson was not happy. And I just identify with that because I'm just like, oh, yeah, we see exactly what happened here. And I'm here to say this guy was probably in the right. Well, up until he brandishes the gun.
If it gets physical, then we have crossed the line. But if we flip a table and or the board, that's fine.
Look, I'm kidding. I'm kidding when it comes to that. Obviously, nobody's in the right here. No game is worth fighting over. But there's just so much that I identify here with my family. Like, look, we were kind of out there. I was not a Christian as a kid. We didn't go to church. And yeah, we fought over board games. And so there was a lot in this story that I could identify with. So I want to tell you my favorite part at the end of this story, because this part was hilarious. At the end of this story, so there's this fight over Monopoly. It spills out of the house due to a family member's request. Like, hey, if you're going to fight, go outside.
Yeah.
So a stepson fighting with his stepfather and stepsister. A struggle ensues. He pulls out a gun and chases them down the street. First of all, Cody, let's pretend you live across the street and you hear a ruckus. And so you step out on your front porch and you see this guy chasing two of his own family members with a gun. And you look over at the other people who are probably outside watching this. And he's like, oh, is a Monopoly game gone bad?
I'm going back inside. Because I know the level of rage that comes from Monopoly. And you don't know how someone's going to react at that moment. So.
Clearly. And again, adult beverages were involved. They were not thinking straight.
Yeah. Adult beverages and weaponry don't mix. Don't do it, people.
My favorite part of this article, I'm going to read it to you. This is on Yahoo. Officers at the scene searched the home, found scattered Monopoly pieces in the living room, but couldn't find the gun. I love that the evidence was scattered Monopoly pieces. Hey, you're going to lose one of the houses.
Oh.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
The game gets flipped. There's tons of pieces with Monopoly, and the number of them is important.
It is.
And so if you lose a house or a hotel, that messes up the game, man.
That's why you need multiple Monopoly sets, and then you can borrow pieces as other pieces go missing.
Now, I have a question. Does this family get back together next year? Question number one, does this family get back together? Do they reconcile? And two, do they continue to play Monopoly?
I think that there is a chance for reconciliation, but for their sakes, no more family game night.
Like, I'm hoping they can reconcile, and then this is something they just laugh about. Because this dude will probably get, like, depending on what his history is, if he doesn't have any prior offenses, this is probably something where he'll get probation for, I would imagine, if the family members decide to continue to press charges. So there's a chance of reconciliation, but like maybe they can laugh about it next Christmas or Thanksgiving and be like, ha, 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 yeah, who wants to play Monopoly? No, just kidding. We play Uno now. You didn't say Uno with one card. Why do you always draw for me, man?
You can't stack. Oh, people and they're stacking the draw twos and draw fours. You can't do that.
There's a sequel coming with this family, and it's going to involve Uno next year and probably adult beverages. Let's hope not.
Yeah, just say no.
Don't you put that evil on me. Okay, Cody, this was you can put this in the sad box, I guess. If I was going to offer a category for this, maybe this is just the sad news. But I was reading an article about Tom Brady.
Familiar with Thomas Brady.
Yeah, which if you're following along, unless you just aren't into sports, you don't read anything about it or tune out as soon as someone starts talking about it. What's going on is Tom Brady's family fell apart. His marriage fell apart. And it seems pretty clear that it was because he didn't want to quit playing football. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
She has come out and said there were other things that factored into it.
Okay. So we want to be fair because we don't want to be just like all the other media who's piling on, which, by the way, all the people and especially members of what they would claim to be media that are like making jokes about Tom Brady's marriage falling apart, and he's struggling this year. Like the team is struggling, although they've won a couple games here recently. Like,
even in Germany.
Yeah, that's not cool. That's not funny. First, I find it disgusting. I find it kind of gross. There's a lot of memes and just people just making fun of somebody's marriage falling apart, which, like, that's great. Giselle and Tom are adults, but they do have children. Maybe they're not on the internet yet. I don't know what their parenting style is like, but they will be. And just not cool. Not cool to make fun of that sort of thing. But I do want to talk about it because there's something interesting in Tom Brady's behavior that and every once in a while he says something that kind of clues you in.
Okay.
So years ago, he was on 60 Minutes, and we've referenced this before. I saw this interview with Tom Brady on 60 Minutes, and the guy's talking to him. He'd won a couple Super Bowls by this point, an MVP, Super Bowl MVP. He was like at the pinnacle. He's at the top, and that's what we thought back then. He just got better. Won more Super Bowls.
Like a fine wine.
Yeah. Now he's like probably regarded as the best quarterback of all time. That's not hyperbole.
Mm-hmm.
And back then he was getting there, but was very good. And he said something on 60 Minutes to the effect of like, I don't know. Like the guy phrased some question with like, well, you've won MVP, you've won the Super Bowl twice now. Like, what's left? And he got really like kind of withdrawn almost. It was almost like he was spacing out, you know, when someone's like eyes glaze over. And he said something along the lines of, I just know there has to be something more out there. And there's got to be something more in football. There just has to be something more out there. And like you could even tell by his answer back then, it was like, ooh, this dude's looking for something to fill him. And football definitely is that thing, even back then. Now, what's concerning about that, Cody, is I think it's still there. Like literally, this guy has nothing left to accomplish in the sport of football. He's the greatest. He's the GOAT. I don't even like the Patriots, which was the team who he was with. In fact, I got frustrated because they were winning so much and that Tom Brady won Super Bowls so much. I got frustrated when he beat the Chiefs because the Chiefs were my team in the Super Bowl. And he won another Super Bowl with a different team, and it frustrated me. So Tom Brady has been a source of negativity for me because I'm a sports fan. But literally, he has nothing left to prove. He's the greatest. He's the GOAT. And yet, it almost looks like he can't quit.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Right. He's got the P. Diddy disease.
He does. But there's a couple things going on with it. I feel. One, I mean, usually football is a career path that if you last more than 5 years, bravo. Because like the average career span's less than that.
Mm-hmm.
Usually there's a sharp, stagnant decline. I mean, Tom really hasn't experienced that in his career. Although I want to retire right now. I'm only 33, and evidently you can't do that. I mean, no, but if you're not an entertainer, there's really very few career paths where you're like, oh yeah, I'm 40, I can retire. And now he's 45 and is still going and still going. And I mean, I get from like maybe his family's perspective why there is this push for him to retire, but as like a career profession, I don't get it. But it also feels like he has tied all of his identity within football, which is a big issue because if your whole identity is within your career, and it's not necessarily like a calling, then we got some hiccups to work through.
Yeah, there certainly seems to be something in that which is sad because that says in his mind somewhere that people only care about him because he's a football player, which that's not true. There are people that love Tom Brady. I'm not one of them. No, I'm just kidding. I love him as a human being, and then I know that he's valuable as a human being, and but somewhere in his head, he doesn't see his value beyond football. Which is weird because, like you said, retiring at football, it doesn't mean playing football doesn't mean you retire from football. Most players go on to coach, and especially people of his caliber go on to make millions of dollars talking about it.
Oh yeah,
like he
look at Troy Aikman.
Yeah, if he wanted to be still around football, he could just transition to do what a lot of those, especially ex-quarterbacks do, which is just talk about football.
Because they know the game inside and out.
Yeah, but clearly there's something going on. It helps him that his game's never been based on his physicality, his physical elements. He's a smart player and just clearly like knows the game a little bit. Now, like, granted, I can't go do what he does. So he has physical abilities. I'm talking about comparably speaking to other NFL caliber quarterbacks.
Looking at you, Big Ben.
Yeah, yeah, he was all about the physical.
He was.
But he said something recently that we're going to come back and take a look at. So stick around because we're getting a little past the world here. I'm building to something. All right, so we're talking about Tom Brady, and he's taken a lot of heat this year.
Tom Brady Jr., that is.
Yeah, is he a junior? I didn't know.
He
that.
is. Dad senior.
The husband and dad of 3 was speaking recently about work-life balance. Specifically, that he was implying that it's impossible to achieve a work-life balance. Like between being a football player and being a husband and dad, he said it's impossible to achieve, which is a strange opinion to have about work and life, especially when you have children.
Very.
Like, can you imagine, just full stop, how hurtful that would be to hear that as a child, as his child, to say, I can't be both. It's impossible. Because then the obvious follow-up question is, well, which one are you?
You can't serve 2 masters.
Right. Right. Now, first of all, I would argue with that. Like, come on, bro. Yeah, you can. Technology being what it is these days, even if you're on the road, you could talk to your children.
It's not the same.
He has a podcast called Let's Go! Did you know that?
Yes, it did.
Oh, have you listened to it?
Only short clips that were like put on Twitter. So not in full length, no.
Well, he said this, basically implying there's no such thing as this work-life balance. He said, quote, as much as you want to have this playful balance with the work balance, you're going to end up doing exactly what you've always done, which is why you are who you are. Okay. In other words, it sounds like Tom Brady thinks it's impossible to juggle the responsibilities of his work and the responsibilities of home, something that many working parents do every single day. And I get it. It's different. I look, I'm not trying to compare the 9 to 5 with what this guy does, because as much as we can sit here and glorify sports and they make millions of dollars, let's not pretend that it's not more consuming what he does than the 9 to 5.
Very possibly. Yeah.
But he says you are who you are. That was weird. That was a weird thing to drop in, and like sort of telling.
I will therapeutically disagree with him. There's neuroplasticity of the brain that you can be rewired. But I don't necessarily disagree with his sentiment that one is going to win out more times than the other. That there's never going to be a balance in the force, if you will.
Yeah, I agree. Let me ask you a question, though. Let's switch the quarterback. Patrick Mahomes, who's a new dad, basically, in the last couple of years.
And is about to be a Padre again.
Yeah, about to have another one. Does he seem like the kind of guy who would say something like that? Which one do you think he is? Which one do you think is more important to Patrick Mahomes? Football player or dad?
I would say family man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's constantly surrounded by his family, and not just his internal, like, nuclear family, like his extended family, his mom, his siblings. Like, even when his siblings were maybe causing him some strife, some stress, he never like pushed them away. It was always like, hey man, that's my brother.
Yeah.
And so I just find it interesting because here's what I would say. I would agree that you're going to be one or the other, probably. But why would you pick football? Especially when you're Tom Brady? Because again, he's done everything. He's done everything. And maybe you are who you are, Tom, but who you are is a dad, right?
Yeah. Maybe that's not that important of an identity to him.
The way he talks about his dad, you think it would be. I mean, this is a dude who just praises his father. It's very interesting. I don't want to pile on. What I want is to be like, can we offer our services as pastors? I mean, we're not sports people generally. We like sports. It's not our life, but hey, if Cody and I could talk to one Thomas Brady Jr.,
Yeah.
we would gladly offer our services to be like, to really work on him, to say like, hey, it's cool that you're the best football player that's ever played the game. That's great, but it's not who you are.
And I would say that being a father, being a family man, it is a high calling within the faith aspect. When you look at the genealogies in the Bible, including Jesus' genealogy, there's a lot of people that you're like, who's this jabroni? And then it's like, what they did was they raised a family.
Yeah. Yeah. They kept the line going. Sometimes that's your purpose. Sometimes that's your value. And it's worth something.
And when Paul writes to Timothy, he's like, I can see the faith that was in your grandmother and then in your mother is also in you.
Yeah. So what I would tell one Thomas Brady Jr. and Tom, call us.
Yes.
We want to help. We want to sit down with Tom Brady. So get the word out there, peoples, if you know Tom.
Yeah.
But what I would say to Tom is, hey man, you've been a great football player and that was your identity and that's great. But its purpose was you've made millions of dollars and now you've got the leeway to do something a lot of dads can't do. That old Joe Blow, who's working the 9 to 5 or often overtime, as a lot of struggling guys do, he's going to have to keep working hard up into his upper years. Tom, what you've done is you've worked hard for something, but what you worked hard for wasn't what you think you were working for. You thought you were working for acclaim and titles and championships, but what you really were working for and what you succeeded amazingly at is to give yourself this leeway to just be a dad, because you don't need the money now. You're set. You can watch your children grow and be a present dad, which a lot of dads around this country would give a lot for.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah. So call us, Tom. Hey everybody, Dave here. What you have just listened to are bits and pieces of our radio show. We have a radio show on KFEX Firescape Radio located in Chanute, Kansas. You can hear that show from noon to 4 every weekday. So if you want to tune into that, you can go to www.kfex931.com, or you can search KFEX in your app store on your smartphone and find their totally free app there. If you're a fan of Christian music, you might like to listen to our live show when you're at work, or if you're a stay-at-home mom and you like music in the house, you may love to listen to that during the day. So give it a try. We would also direct you to our podcast, Pop Culture Pastor. That's probably why you're listening anyways to this version of what we do. As always, subscribe to the podcast, follow us on our social medias on Facebook and Twitter. It helps us out when you share it, when you review and rate us on our podcast homes. And of course, follow us on social media and share our stuff there. So thank you so much for listening. We love all of you guys so much. We have such a great community of listeners, and we'll see you when the regular pod drops on Friday.